In today's video, we're going to be replacing the wear ring on this Seadoo Speedster, or it could be called the Sportster depending on the year, but essentially the same boat. So the wear ring is essentially a piece of plastic, and it does exactly that. It wears out around your impeller in your jet system. So a lot of people just change these periodically out of maintenance. Just after a while it kind of gets grooved out. If you run over a bunch of sticks or anything like that, or rocks or whatever, it essentially wears out instead of wearing out your impeller. So in order to do that, we're gonna have to take apart the rear of this. So if you have like the reverse bucket here, you're gonna have to disconnect it right there, and then we're also going to have to disconnect our steering. So right here, another 10 mil, we'll disconnect those two cables. And then you're gonna see 4 Allen head bolts right there, and we can disconnect those, and then this whole thing will come out of the way. And once you get those 2 cables disconnected, you're gonna see 4 Allen head bolts, and I've got those loosened up. Just be careful on them, you don't wanna strip these, and we're gonna be putting anti-seize on them when we put them back in. Other thing too is right here, hopefully you can see that, there is a cotter pin on top. So you have to remove this cotter pin and then slide this whole assembly up, and that'll release this cable and like the mechanism that holds it to this whole bracket. Okay, and after you get the cotter pin in, just get a pry bar or something long, and see that right there? You're gonna pop that out of place, and that is what holds the cable in there. So this right here, and now we should be able to slide this whole assembly out of here. All right, so what I'm doing right now is I just took the 4 Allen head bolts out and just sprayed them with WD-40, and because they were getting pretty jammed up here. So again, I'm just kind of cleaning everything off. I got them out, and I'm gonna end up putting anti-seize on them later. But right now we've got 4 17 mil nuts holding that on. So I've got our little impact and our long extension. So I'm gonna zip those off, and we should be able to get that pump out of there. So we got our 4 nuts off, so should be able to just hopefully wiggle this thing out of here. Like so, and it's as easy as that. So yeah, that's what I was suspecting, you guys. So if you can see the deep groove right there, it's got some really deep grooves, and that is what we're trying to avoid. So what we're gonna try and do is the freezer trick. So apparently you put everything in the freezer and it shrinks the plastic more than the rest of it. So let's see what happens, see if that works for us. Okay, so I want to show you guys the way that I found to get this out, because I haven't heard of this, but maybe you guys can correct me if you've seen this. So I put it in the freezer, it was not budging. Some guys say, oh, take a Sawzall to it, but then don't hit the outside because it'll ruin it, of course. What I did was I took 4 drywall screws or wood screws, and every place that there was a tab or an ear, I screwed one in. And what I did was I just used a hammer like this, and then whatever you have to space out in the back, in my case it was using this and then the hammer, and it is just prying and it's pulling this out. So I was just working my way around, and it's starting to come out. So obviously this one's been in here for a while, as you can see, but it's working. So let me show you. Okay, I might be able to take it out by hand now. No, not quite. Okay, so on my unit there were several screws that were actually holding the ring in place, and this piece here actually was hiding to them. So this slips in here like so, and that was actually hiding a couple of the screws from behind. So just be aware of that when you go to take yours apart. Other thing too is I did end up taking the cone off the back. Just gave me a flat surface to be able to put this new ring back in, but at the same time too, it's probably not a bad idea to change the grease inside your pump as well. So I'm going to do that, and also you can check your bearings. I think I'm probably going to need to rebuild this at some point here. It's still pretty tight, but bearings are definitely a little noisy, and that grease in there was not the best looking, and there was some water and stuff in there. So I'm going to redo this, reseal it, but at least there you go. You guys know how to take the ring out. I'm gonna put the new ring in, and we'll reassemble everything, and I'll show you guys that. All right, so we got our wear ring fresh out of the freezer. Let's see if this drops in, or if we've gotta do more to it. So looks like it still needs some tap. Yours may not have these set screws, but if it does, we're going to just drill a tiny hole, not all the way through, I don't think, but just set it enough so that these little set screws can bite onto it. So just gonna go down a little bit, just drill a little pilot so that these can bite into it. But again, yours might not have these, but these are factory, at least on this model. All right, so set screws are in. This thing's ready to go back on. What I am gonna do though is put some grease on this shaft here. So I'll put some grease there. And I'm also going to, this is on the recommendation I've seen of other people, they put a little bit of the right stuff just on your O-rings here. Just a little smear, nothing crazy, just to kind of help them seal. And then we'll get this thing up here. All right, so we got grease on the drive shaft. We've got a little bit of the right stuff on our seals. I put some anti-seize on the bolts. And now let's get this thing up and in here. The pump is in. I tightened the 4 nuts on there, so anti-seize, everything's tightened down, and now we'll go ahead and I'm gonna put some anti-seize on these 4 bolts. These are the ones that are really the dog to get out, so definitely gonna sauce these up with some anti-seize, and we'll put that back on. Okay, next one up, you can see somebody's put some gasket maker here, so I'll put a little smear of the right stuff on these 2 ports that go to the top right there. More anti-seize, and put all the stuff back together. So everything's covered in anti-seize. I'm gonna throw this on the front. I might have had it chilling over here for a second, but this does go in fact right here, and then we'll toss it up, but get it bolted on. These bolts go in so nice, you guys, having all the anti-seize and everything on there. They were like a struggle to get out, so I'm gonna tighten them by hand, but I'm just running them in with the gun because they're pretty long. But all the final tightening will be done by hand. Definitely don't want to strip these guys. Okay, so now I'm gonna tighten these by hand. We will hook up our steering, our reverse bucket, and then put that cotter pin back in, and that's pretty much it. All right, so there you have it, guys. It's back in together. Not that hard of a job. I do think using the drywall screws to get it out is kind of a necessary trick unless you want to cut it and go crazy with it, but I found that worked pretty good. Even putting in the brand new OEM one, I know there's some talks about using aftermarket ones and stuff like that, but the aftermarket ones, you know, sometimes they do fit, sometimes they're too loose, sometimes they're too tight. I actually went with a OEM Seadoo one, so that's an OEM one, and it was a snug fit. I had to tap it in, and as you guys saw, it was definitely a snug fit coming out. So anyways, that should get rid of my cavitation issue. It was kind of doing a weird thing where if you full throttled it from a stop, it would kind of like bounce off the rev limiter until it started to go, and then it would pick up speed. So it wasn't like completely failed, but as you can see, it was pretty grooved out, and so it probably had some leakage around the impeller. So anyways, that's gonna be it. If you guys are interested in more videos on this, got a ton of stuff already posted up, cleaning it, installing brand new interior, this top and converting this. This is an aftermarket top that I made work with the factory mounts. So if your factory top is, you know, no longer there or missing and you want to upgrade it to an aftermarket one that's pretty cheap, this is only a few $100 and works with all the factory mounts, then check out that video. Also going to be fixing the broken gauges, the sun faded part here, stereo, all that stuff. So definitely stick around if you guys are interested in this type of stuff, and we'll see you guys on the next video.